channel. My name is Crawford and this is Virginia's for Lowriders. If you haven't been here for the last 4 videos of the Ranger Lowrider build, to get you caught up, we are doing everything to this truck to make it into a lowrider. We're going to do probably 3 or 4 pumps, spokes, wrapping the frame, big, long, extended 3-link, you name it. We're cutting it up. We're doing the thing. A couple things that we need to address because this truck was purchased off marketplace from a man that wasn't exactly truthful with me. I keep finding a lot of things that need to be addressed because he lied about it. This truck clearly been sitting for a long time, and that's where my ADD got me this week. We were really trying to get the front frame to where we can get it all cleaned up and start wrapping it, doing the inner wheel wells, and getting it to where we can put hydraulics in the front. But that didn't go well. That plan was completely thrown off by the fact that I took the valve covers off because they were leaking, and I'm pretty sure this engine has never had an oil change. It's that bad. It's extremely bad, and I will explain that more. And the plan for the end of this video, we have to get the front frame rails at least tack welded together. We need to make some templates, we need to cut some metal, we need to get some stuff ready and ground down. We're going to clean up some valve covers. I'm going to go over everything that we are addressing. Got to do the brakes on this side because I didn't get a chance to do that because I was fighting a lot of other issues. But if you've never been here before, do all the normal YouTube-y things. Go back and check out all of the other videos. There's a ton of videos on my Mazda build that you can binge watch, over 60 videos. Tons of them. Body dropping, bagging, all of those things. Don't forget to comment and subscribe and do all the normal things that all the normal YouTubers ask you to do because it helps us. And I would very much appreciate it. But we're just going to jump into it. I need to get the valve covers and the sandblast cabinet. We're going to do a little trick on those to make those not look like rusty poop. By the end of this video, we have to do something lowrider based besides talk about wheels. If you weren't here last week, I think this is the majority winner of options that I had. And I gotta agree, they do look good on the truck. I'm gonna try and give a quick explanation of how my week is going. I tried to come out here and work every day, and I was gonna work until 10 or 11 o'clock at night, trying to get the front frame rails wrapped up because I have things to do this Saturday. I was trying to make a video and I took the valve covers off. I knew whenever the first time I drove this outside of purchasing it that there was a problem. I did check the oil. The oil was brand new. I checked the bottom of the cap. But I also bought the truck at nighttime, which I never recommend. I looked down inside of the oil fill and I saw sludge. So I knew I was going to get into some stuff. I've had sludgy motors before and I've cleaned them and I've been successful. My Caprice was a sludgy motor. I also took the intake off my Caprice, vacuumed out all the sludge, cleaned everything up, flushed it, and I've been driving that for 4 years. So it scares me, yes, 100%. But if addressed okay and try to be cautious about it, you can sort of resolve the issue, kinda. It's still, damage is done. The motor's been neglected. I did figure out why this thing smokes. I did figure out why it runs rough. It actually has nothing to do with the sludge. At least I don't think it does. I found a lot of surprises. The man that I purchased it from told me he did the cap, rotor, plugs, wires. He did a fuel pressure regulator. He did the sensors and injectors and all of these things. The only evidence that I found that he did any of that for real was a coolant temperature sensor and injectors. Outside of that, I'm pretty positive he just power washed some stuff and then proceeded to lie about it. So, first off, this looks really rough. This looks 1,000 times better than what it did. It was completely full. Like, you couldn't tell that this was a recess at all. All of those bolts, you couldn't tell those were bolts because all of that was slam packed full of really nasty sludge. And it was to the point where it was getting hard and turning into little rocks. So that turned into 3 nights of coming home from work and working until 11 o'clock at night to get all of that out of there. One, without taking the entire top end off. I know it would have been easier to clean out the valley and all that stuff. This is set up a little different than like a traditional Chevrolet, to where you can actually see the valley through the head because the top of the intake is part of the head. I know I could have done that a little easier, but I wouldn't have been able to run the engine at all in between that, and I would have only been able to put it back together and then run it, and I didn't want to get into that. You can't get the oil pan off unless you maybe jack the motor way, way up, but you're basically taking out at that point. So what I did, I cleaned it, I vacuumed it for a long time, scraped, filled up probably 50 rags, no exaggeration here, just scraping stuff out, wiping them on a rag. I filled up a lot of rags. I vacuumed all the chunks that I could. I blew out chunks with air. I did whatever I could to get that stuff out of there. And then I soaked everything down, which I do not recommend this. This is worst case scenario. I soaked everything in diesel. And I let that sludge drain to the bottom of the pan and didn't run it with a diesel in there. And I drained that the next day. I came in, drained it, replaced the oil, put a new filter on it, cleaned it some more, drained it some more, and then after I ran it with that oil in there, drained that out, and then I filled up probably the entire oil pan with diesel, soaking everything down with a spray bottle, and over and over and over, and every time I did it, I got more and more out of it. And I finally got it to the point, which I guarantee if I pulled the front cover off, the timing chain just slam packed full of that stuff. But I can't do anything about that, and I'm not taking this little crappy engine completely apart to try and fix something in that nature, because these motors aren't worth anything, and if it comes down to it, I'll just buy. My mentality about this is I will buy another good running truck and just swap engines. This truck runs great. It has great oil pressure, so I'm not afraid that the motor is hurt, but I also wanted to take any precaution that I could to get this resolved. It cost me like 30 something dollars in brake clean and probably 30 something dollars in an oil change. So oil, old filter, flushing, oil, old filter. That's brand new oil in that jug. And that's how nasty it was coming out. This next part is the scariest part of it all. But I'm at the point where whatever happens, happens. Hopefully the new oil filter and the new oil does well. If you check the new oil on the dipstick, because I ran it last night for probably 5-ish minutes. I was running it without the valve covers on so I can check everything, because I was having some oiling problems on the passenger side, and that came around. And now that was the last diesel flush. So that is clean, brand new diesel and a little bit of oil. And as you can see, it's disgusting. I was running out of containers to put this stuff in. This is also diesel, and it also looks disgusting. Like I said, I am not happy about this, and it sucks, but we're moving past it. I think I got a very large majority of this, and you can tell just by how much stuff is in my vacuum and how much stuff is in these little paint filters. This is what I'm getting out of the engine. That's probably the first one. And you can see it's pretty bad. And then as you get, I think that one, I want to say that's the last one I got. And I didn't get any more out of it after that. So we're calling it good. It might not last a long time. It might last forever. I didn't even go to this extent with my Caprice, and I've been driving my Caprice for 4 years. All I did was clean the top of the engine out and flush it once, and I was done with it. This has been flushed like 8 times. No joke. I have used an entire 5-gallon can of diesel fuel. Again, not recommended. This is worst case scenario. I'm just trying to save a motor that runs really good and has really good oil pressure from it not being that. So sorry that took so long to explain. We'll get into some sort of coolish stuff. We're gonna do some wrinkle paint on the valve covers. It's one of my tricks for valve covers that are in really rough shape. Oh, this is another sign that the guy lied about everything. The night that I went to pick up the truck, he told me I started pulling the AC compressor off to do the valve cover gaskets, and then I realized that it was too much work and I didn't want to get into it. He pulled the valve covers off, and I know he pulled the valve covers off because he put the valve cover gaskets back on and they leaked terribly. But all this scraping, all these screwdriver marks, that's not for me. I would soak this and I would not use a screwdriver on it. Yeah, he definitely lied about that. And the reason the truck runs as rough as it does, and my Rock Auto order just showed up, as I'm digging around, I found 3 broken vacuum lines that were dry rotted. One of them being, I took this hose and this grommet and check valve off of my Parch Lincoln. That was completely dry rotted. The elbow from this line was completely dry rotted and leaking. So the whole thing, he told me this was new, and it's shiny. After a further inspection, and if you move some stuff out of the way and you really get into it, you can see that he brake cleaned it or just wiped it down because there's so much gunk underneath of it. This is bad enough that diaphragm is no good, and it's shooting fuel out of this line back into the intake. The entire time it's running, this is spewing fuel out of it. It has so much fuel pressure coming through here that I pulled this side off and tried to run it last night, and holding my finger on it, it will actually blow my finger off with the amount of fuel pressure coming through there. So that means these back 2 cylinders at least are just loading up with fuel the entire time. And that's one of the parts that he told me he replaced. I got one more thing. I promise I'll be done. He also told me he did the plugs. His plugs are old. They are the cheapest auto lights you can purchase, and they are 100% fouled. All of them are. These are all trash and clearly not new. I found 2 spark plug wires that were trash. It just goes on and on and on. But I think we're finally at the point where we can look past the things because I got it to oil on the passenger side correctly. It's running better. I got parts to fix the fuel line issue or fuel pressure regulator issue. So we're now at the point we can do the things that we want to do, like make the valve covers look pretty. I don't know. This week has been a long week. I am going to show, which I've talked about it numerous times. We've actually talked about it on the Ranger before. The absolute cheapest way to degrease stuff. We're talking like, I don't know, $5 in supplies if you didn't have the drain pan. Oh, some awesome from the dollar store. It's actually even cheaper. You can do this for $2 basically. The pump sprayer just makes it easier. Soak these things down. All I'm going to do, soak them in the awesome, let them sit for a couple minutes, come back, agitate them a little bit, soak them again, and repeat a couple times, and that's it. It doesn't take very long at all. Get these little brushes from the Dollar Tree. You can get 3 of them. One that looks like brass, but I'm pretty sure it's not. Steel and plastic. Go through, agitate with the awesome a little bit. I haven't turned the camera off, so it's like this is real time. You can see just that little bit. Already breaks that stuff down and gets to the point where you can almost rinse it off. So a little bit elbow grease and some cheap stuff from the Dollar Tree and get them cleaned up pretty quick. It's been 2 days. I haven't been in the garage in 2 days. Yesterday was a long day. It consisted of total of 6 hours worth of hauling a skid steer around and working all day long. Started at 4:30 in the morning and ended at 11 o'clock at night. So I originally planned on posting a video of the crown. I haven't worked on the crown, and I don't really feel like working on the crown. So we're gonna rush and try and get the Ranger video going, so y'all have something to watch today. Because it's Sunday at like 3 something, and I'm just now getting in the garage. I'm getting back on these valve covers real quick so we can actually try and get these sandblasted and painted up. And then I'm gonna carry some 1/4-inch plate, or couldn't find my quarter. I found some 3/16. I have a brand new sheet of 3/16. 3/16 is fine for doing what we need to do. So I guess that's just what we're going with. I had a sheet that I thought was 1/4-inch. I go out into the shed and dig it out. It's 3/8. I don't know if you've ever seen 3/8 plate, but that's a whole lot of material and way more than this little truck would ever need. 3/16 is fine. If it ever breaks, I'll fix it. It's not a big deal, but I rambled a whole lot in the beginning of this video, and I do apologize for that because I got done editing, but there's a whole lot to talk about that I kept finding problems with, and I'm going to stop rambling. It's hard to do. I apologize. Try and get some primer on these valve covers, jack the truck up, take some stuff apart. Probably going to pull the springs out of it, start grinding. I got to figure out how to cover up the engine so I don't get dirt inside of it and dust. And then maybe we'll get to some welding and cutting and grinding and all of the things that we should have been doing all week long instead of the depressing potential engine failures. Tired. Been a long weekend. But yeah, I said it like 5 times now. Let's get to work. So these have been sitting for going on 2 days now. As you can see, all of that stuff is gone. You can see a little bit where it ran off, but these are looking pretty good, especially from where we started at. They're looking really good. I think we're gonna call this a quits. I'm going to brake clean them, try and get that last little bit out of all the crevices, and we're going straight for the sandblaster. To give you all, because you didn't get to experience the sludge with me, give you an idea, this is just where the PCV valve goes on the valve cover. And you can see, this is what I was pulling out of the engine. Pretty bad. And I was doing this over and over. Forever. So one of the things that I like to do whenever I have valve covers that are questionable in condition, this one, super smooth. Came out awesome. Looks great. This one, it looks good, and you'd honestly probably never see it because there's so much crap in that engine bay, but if we're doing it, we might as well make it look respectable, even though the motor is probably going to explode in a month. Fingers crossed. We'll see what happens. It has, I don't know if the camera picks it up, it has very light pitting, and paint might fill that in. I've had worse, and I've been able to basically cover it up essentially. It's all we're doing here. The wrinkle paint hides the imperfections, and it looks good. I've been a fan of wrinkle paint since my Honda days back in the day, because it was like the thing to do in the early 2000s. So Gonna lay some primer on here, and then we'll hit this with wrinkle paint, and then we're gonna rush and try and get something done because it's already like 5 o'clock, and I'm usually trying to be inside editing. I am really bad at this, but we're gonna get it done. I should have just worked on the crown. The crown video probably would have took me like 30 minutes to finish up, but you know, this is how it goes. I'd rather work on the Ranger and continue to drive the crown the way it is, and then rambling again. Like I had mentioned, we're going to use some Wrinkle Plus, and what I recommend, and I use this stuff a lot, I might have got a bad can, because it's spraying. It looks like the can's been leaking, so hopefully this goes well. What I recommend, I run over the entire thing, both of them, with a heat gun. If it's not hot outside. If it's hot outside, just let them sit outside. It's like 40 degrees today. What I'll do, spray this on, first coat very thin. Second and possibly third coat, kind of heavy, because you only really have a couple shots at this. And then hit it with the heat gun, and you can actually watch everything wrinkle up to one uniform wrinkle. If you just spray it on and let it dry, you'll have these weird blotchy spots of like shiny-ish paint. It's hard to explain, but we'll go over this real quick, and I gotta get back to work. This nozzle does not spray very well. Oh man, that's like a straight up stream. Let me see if I got another nozzle before we start this. Oh, I found another used tip. Not much left of that isolator. Before we go any further, I've had so much disappointing stuff going on with this thing. We need to have some instant gratification and see the potential that we are going to have. I know with factory I-beams, it's not going to be able to go that low before everything just bottoms out, but we can get an idea of where we're going to be. Just pulled sway bar bushing, or just pulled the sway bar end links off, the spring out and the shock out. So that means we can raise this up and see where it could potentially go. And I'm hoping for about this much lift at least. So that is on the bump stop, meaning we still have 2 inches before the bump stop. This is probably going to be pretty close to ride height. And I will show y'all, like I had mentioned last week, all of the tread is, the wheels turned a little bit, the steering wheel's locked, but all of the tread is pretty much within the fender well. I might have a little bit more positive camber than this, which I'm perfectly fine with, but this is pretty awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. You see what I meant last week? The camber changes everything. Meaning by the time that's basically tucked up in there, I don't think it's going to be any lower than that. It might be to where it's just barely almost touching the front fender. I can't have it compressed too much because if I did, I wouldn't be able to do any kind of hopping and things of that nature because it would just bottom out and ruin the frame, ruin the I-beams, ruin the trailing arms, all that stuff. So this is probably going to be ride height, which I'm cool with. Because lowrider is like what I'm trying to do here. I have the Caprice. Again, I'll post a picture if you've never been here before. That car lays out, flat out on the ground, flat on the frame. Took a lot to get it to that point. Lowriders and what I want to do with this, big 3-wheel, all that stuff, they're not really built to do the same things. But I'm cool with that. If it looks like this, it looks that good, I am 100% okay with that. It looks a little weird because the wheels turn, so it looks like it's crooked. That is a cool look. And the valve covers are finished up, and they are, I'll try and take a picture because the GoPro doesn't really do it justice. I'll post a still shot of them, but they are super smooth, like wrinkle paint wise. I left the little clips on there. I attempted to get them out, but they kept breaking, and it's how you tie some of the harness up, so I just wrinkle painted over top of them. It still be fine. It turned out pretty good, but we're getting distracted here. I need to do something. I think I'm just out of time, guys. I think I'm going to make some templates tonight. I didn't get to the point where I wanted to get to again. Engine problems, entire Saturday. I'm going to take the end of this video and I'm going to compile the footage that we took yesterday. So to give a brief of what happened and why we were doing the things, my cousin asked me for some help. So we took a machine and a bunch of my friends down to her late father's property, and there's 40 plus cars spread all over this property, and she wanted to consolidate all of them because it's an overwhelming amount of vehicles. So we took a skid steer, towed it almost 3 hours there, worked the entire day, 3 hours back. We left at 4:30 in the morning. I didn't get home till 11 at night. Super long day. But what you're going to see is the footage of everything that basically my friends holding up a phone because I didn't have my GoPro with me and we were just trying to get some stuff done. I recorded a little bit with my phone, but basically throughout the woods there's tons of cars, and we took those vehicles and moved them to one central location at the front of the property so she can get rid of them when she's ready. But I feel kind of bad because I didn't get anything done on this and I didn't get the video of the crown gun, blah, 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 blah. So Next week, 100%, because I keep saying this and I keep running into issues, we will have the outside of the frame on the front fully wrapped, the pockets fully wrapped. You can hold me to it. It's just been, bear with me, we're getting to it. And we did make progress, as much as the progress sucked, and it's unwanted progress, like working on the engine for 3 days. And I'm rambling. I'm just going to see y'all next Sunday. I appreciate y'all watching, sticking with me through this. Hopefully come back next week, and we'll get back on the Ranger, and we're going to knock some stuff out. And we're going to do some cool stuff. I now see how this pocket is mounted on the bottom of the trailing arm and the beam and all that, and how everything's laid out. I got an idea of what cups I'm going to order, so I'm going to go inside, edit all this, post this, order my cups, I think I have a new set of cylinders. We're going to go through my spring stash in the back, see if I got what I need, and if not, I'll order a fresh set of springs for this. And again, I just keep on trying to going our way with the rambling. So I'll see y'all next Sunday. I appreciate y'all watching. Look how the door popped open.